Hey everybody, welcome back to Brave Boys Beyond with your host Jordan Perez. And on today's episode, we're talking about Batman Floppies. No, not that kind of floppy. I'm talking about single editions. Let's get into the video. Now, Batman made his debut in comics back in 1939, and that's going to be in Detective Comics number 27. In the following year, that comic was so popular that Batman ended up getting his own comic called Batman, where you actually have introductions to characters such as Robin. No, this is not a technical difficulty. Your screen is just paused, and it's because I paused the video. I did make one very crucial mistake when I was recording this back almost 3 weeks ago. Oh my god, I've been putting off editing for so long. Um, so Detective Comics number 38 is actually Robin's very first appearance, which came out the same month as Batman number one. Both Detective Comics number 38 and Batman number one both launched in April of 1940. So, pardon me for making my very easy but crucial mistake on Robin's very first appearance. Nevertheless, correcting it now. Okay, let's get back to the video. The Joker, Catwoman, all in the first issue, which I think that's really cool, especially because we're using those characters to this day. Batman was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, which there's a super interesting comic strips video that you could check out right above, and it goes over the history on the creation of Batman and how we can thank Bill Finger for this design because this was Bob Kane's original design. Now that would be really weird to see. Even back then, I would think it's still weird. Now, over the decades, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Batman comics out there, some in continuity, some not in continuity, some main titles such as Detective Comics and Batman, and some that are kind of like spin-offs like Legends of the Dark Knight. Now, there are more than just those three, and I'm going to talk about some more modern day ones, but let me talk a little bit on my history with Batman single editions. I have made a video previously talking about my origins into comics, and you can check that out over on The Brave and the Boys. I'll link that up right above. But to go over a small recap, I started getting to collecting comics when I was a teenager. Now, I look very young, and in all frankly, I am very young. But when I started getting into single editions, I was probably around 16, 17 when I visited my local comic book shop, and, well, I've been going there ever since. I started collecting comics towards the Rebirth era. I could have picked up a couple of the New 52 Batman run by Scott Snyder, although I think we're on issue 51, and by then we already knew that the entire universe was going to get rebooted, so I held out to start off with the Batman number 1 by Tom King. Now, I have this edition of Batman number 1 out because I'm going to talk about the cover artist on this a little bit later. Plus, doesn't this look cool? I got this because it looks really cool, so I just need to show some of my comics off to someone else that's not my girlfriend. So now, even though this is more of a collected edition channel, which you can kind of tell by the two bookshelves, I still like to collect floppies. They're actually my guilty pleasure. They're the most expensive way that you can buy comics to this day, especially if you buy them digitally because you don't get a discount. They're cumbersome because once you collect, I have too many to even count at this point. I have 6 short boxes now of floppies, and I'm running out of space really fast. But they're my guilty pleasure. It gives me an excuse to get out of the house, to go to my local comic book shop, talk about a hobby that I really get to enjoy, and I only really get to talk to you guys and even Jake about. So it's not a whole bunch of opportunities, but it gives me an excuse to leave the house. Plus, it keeps me up to date on all my current comics. Even though you could go through, I think, DC Universe or whatever their app is called to read some comics a little bit delayed, I still prefer the physical editions. Nothing can beat going down, picking up your comics on New Comic Book Day, and then just binge reading the crap out of them. Let's talk about some Batman runs that I'm currently reading now. Now, these are the 4 main titles that I am currently collecting that involve Batman. Now, I have to say involved because one of them is more of an anthology book, although it does have some Batman writing inside of it, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But let me start off with the main actual continuity, which is Batman. This is the same Batman that's been collected since 1940. You don't have to go and read from 1940 to current day to understand Batman. You can start picking up, actually, I would probably say up to the most recent number one, or just jump into the most recent run, which is Chip Zdarsky. This is Chip Zdarsky's run on Batman with art by Jorge Jimenez, and holy is it so beautifully drawn, and the writing is so interesting. It's extremely different than what we've seen in most Batman runs since Grant Morrison, which, talking about a little bit of Grant Morrison, this takes a lot of inspiration from Grant Morrison. You can go and start reading from Chip Zdarsky and actually enjoy the story, and there's a super cool like fight scene at the very beginning of it. But if you want to get the most out of it, read Grant Morrison's Batman first, then read Tom King's Batman, and then read Chip Zdarsky's. Otherwise, just jump straight in. You'll start enjoying it. I think they're going to start a new run very soon. I think Zdarsky is going to wrap up this year. Now, besides that, I am reading Batman, The Brave and the Bold. It's almost like we got The Brave and the Boys from this title, although that predates this comic coming out. Now, it's called Batman Brave and the Bold. It's not really a Batman book. It's just Batman sells. Although the way that this book runs is every issue you have about 4 to 5 different stories written by different authors and drawn by different artists. And every issue there's at least one Batman story in it, and then the rest are going to be within the DC universe. And it's very cool and interesting, and you get to see things that you typically wouldn't from most DC books. Check it out if you like anthology series. I mean, I do, and that's why I'm getting it. I like things like the Illustrated Man as well as the Twilight Zone, and it's fun. Now I have these two over here. One is definitely not in continuity, and the other one technically can be in continuity. I'm going to start with Batman Gargoyle, or I think it's Gargoyle of Gotham. I would have to flip it to double check, but editor me will figure that out. Batman Gargoyle of Gotham is a very interesting book by Rafael Grampa. Now, I had his cover on the table earlier for that Batman number 1, and he is both the author and illustrator of this book. He creates Batman in a more political landscape, and it's a lot darker and more gritty than what we're used to. If you like the Batman, the movie that came out in 2023, you'll like this one. It's very dark, but it's still very good. Now, finally, I'm collecting Batman Offworld. Batman Offworld, very, very, very different than what we've seen in other Batman stories. This takes Batman and throws him into a sci-fi environment, which I really like. I read issue number 1 today. I did pick up issue number 2 when I went to go pick up my pools for the week, and oh my goodness, am I in love with this book. And it makes sense. It's written by Jason Aaron. So if you like Jason Aaron's Thor run, if you like Planet Hulk, actually, you'll like this because it's very similar in that way. It takes Batman and he throws him into a situation that he's not comfortable with. It's a younger Batman. This takes place a little bit after what year 1 would be. It's referenced within the title that it does. And that it takes him to learn more skills that he can't learn on Earth. Therefore, he has to go off-world. It kind of takes the question of, is Batman even good in a fight with aliens? And it says, yes, he is. He goes off-world to train to fight against aliens. Similar to how Hulk is a gladiator in Planet Hulk, Batman is his own gladiator, and he's taking this extremely seriously because he wants to be able to defend Gotham against anything. This is super cool. Out of everything that I have here, I would probably say go check this out. My local comic book shop had a bunch of issue 1s and a bunch of issue 2s still available, so please do yourself a favor. Get that one, especially if you're really into sci-fi. Now, like I said, these are the 4 Bat titles that I'm currently collecting, and you'll notice there's one on here that is actually kind of important, and I don't pick it up. It's actually Detective Comics. So besides the main Batman run, there is the Detective Comics, which is Batman, although it varies quite a bit. I mean, it could be a Batman story, it could be a Batman and Robin story, or even a Bat family story. And because of that, I like just sticking with the main Batman run because it's more of a focus on him. I still collect some of the DC or Detective Comics, such as my entire Batman the Dark Knight Detectives run, or even I have a couple more omnibuses of Detective Comics, but I wait for those to come out in collected editions. I hear the current run's very good. It's being written by Ram V, who also wrote The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and I will check it out eventually. Just I have too many comics on my pull list to add another Batman title. Four is a little much in all honesty, and I'm probably gonna trim the fat once these two runs are done. So let's get into my conclusion on Batman Floppies. Now, should you go and buy some floppies from your local comic book shop? Definitely, I think so. It's a great way to support the comic book industry to this day, and I know a lot of us like to trade sit or even omnibus sit, which I do that as well, in all honesty, because it's typically the most affordable way to buy comics, even though it's bigger, better prints, larger size. It doesn't help the comic book industry as much as buying floppies, as well as if there's a title that you really like, by spending your dollar, you're showing your vote of that they should continue that run. Batman might not be the greatest example of that, and that's because Batman will always be in print. It's been selling for almost 100 years now, and I don't see it slowing down. If anything, it's vamping up with more and more movies coming out. We have the Batman sequel coming out very soon, as well as Batman and Robin, which I'm looking forward to immensely. But I like reading comics. This is my guilty pleasure, and I just wanted to share that with you all. And I hope I've inspired you to, at least check out your local comic book shop to help them out and help out the comic industry that feels like it's getting smaller and smaller every year, and that scares me because I'm just so passionate about this industry. Well, that's going to wrap it up for me today. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like down below. If you like this kind of content, also consider subscribing as well. I mean, we have a nice subscribe button banner logo somewhere here, so if you could, I'd really appreciate it. And let me know, are you guys reading any Batman floppies as of the moment? If not, are there any floppies you're collecting as well? Alrighty, y'all. I want you guys to keep reading and stay bold. See ya.